I don't know what they make these cans out of anymore.
They say aluminum.
Shall we begin?
We shall.
Welcome back to this discussion, everybody. I am your Jan, and joining me once again are the ever-famous Planky, Kaz. We have again our guest speakers, Rex and Kyrr, and also we have Zask. Hopefully bringing you a wide variety of opinions and perspectives upon these changes that are coming. Today we're going to be discussing Update 51's changes to the Epic Destinies.
There's the link.
And I guess I will open it up with the first premise, which is everything is subject to change. So we won't be going into detail about the specific destinies, because a lot of that is going to be worked over in due time. We're going to cover the general core idea, the framework, and the philosophy behind it a bit. Anybody else got any opening arguments for this, or opening ideas for this?
Sounds good, Jan. The floor is yours.
From what I see on this the first bullet point they've got for this, they're trying to turn the epic destinies to look like the current heroic enhancement trees, where instead you had one tree and you stuck with it and you twisted in elements from, say, up to 4 other trees. Now you have 3 epic destiny trees that you can mix and match from, with everything from cores and tier 5, same basic premise, but the layout's a bit different. Anybody got any thoughts on that?
No, these changes so far, personally, I have looked into, and I mean, these were a little bit confusing at first. Most definitely, I wasn't fond of what I was reading, but as soon as I looked into it and got to play a test on Lamannia, I found that it was a little bit smoother in my opinion, and some of these changes are heading in a good direction for the general player base. Maybe some changes that myself or others don't like, but it might be better or needed for the development and the storyline of Dungeons & Dragons Online.
Nice.
It's definitely a bit of a side grade, because before you had your one tree and you could twist in elements from up to 4 other trees. Here now you get 3 trees and that's what you deal with. Which is kind of it's a side grade, but not too much of a side grade, because you definitely go deeper into each tree this way.
So let me ask, who did the trial on Lamannia?
I did.
I also did.
And Rex, right?
Correct.
There's a crack in
Okay,
the temple
cool.
floor large enough to fit through. The echoes of falling pebbles signal an enormous...
What was your experience with it? I know Kaz stuck mostly to Monk. What did you play around with, Rex and Kyrr?
Okay, I'll go ahead. I played with 2 different varieties. So first up was my 15-5 cleric split that I love and enjoy to always play. I faced a lot of indifferent changes from both U50 and U51, so my critical chance went down by a lot because I lost things like Empyrean Fervor or Empyrean Magic from Divine Crusader, where I was able to twist that in. Meld was drastically changed different, so I couldn't have that on my cleric. And a lot of my other things, like my healing power from Exalted Angel, that 30 positive spell power, which came in very nice, as well as the Echoes of the Power. The spell point one was gone, which was very unfortunate, but it probably was necessary in the long run. And so when I was testing those, I tested a few builds, not a lot because I didn't have a lot of time. But from what I could see, that these changes were drastically different in terms of power, because I lost quite a bit, and it spent a lot of time trying to figure out what a good enhancement tree combo of the 3 trees that I could pick from would be a good fit, and I still haven't perfected it. But there's also 5 trees yet to come out. Even more, there's supposed to be 8, 3 for the other classes that haven't been released yet, or the trees haven't been released for the classes because their main inline goal was to release one Epic Destiny for every class. And so I haven't fully found a good working combination for a lot of like divine or spell casting, because I've had times here where I was looking at Druid and it's like, well, with these changes, I have no clue what's going to come up, because there's only 7 Destiny trees currently out to preview. But a lot of the things were the limiting of points was a very contributing factor. It's not like how twists used to be. So instead of having all these twistables and having 25 points, is now a full-fledged, I think it was 59, Rex, is that correct?
Yeah, max of 59.
So there's a max of 59, and spending those between 3 trees is incredibly hard, because it's like you can take one tier 3 and you already spent 31 points into one tree. That's 31 out of your 59. And then if you try to take a tier 3 or tier 4 into another tree, you're already you're already limited to tier 1 on the 3rd tree. And so this is a little bit it's a little bit tricky to work with, and it's definitely gonna have to take take time to get used to, because these changes are, it's not going to be definitely the same as what you saw with Twist.
So let's be clear, when we're talking about trees in the rework of Epic Destinies, they're going to be pretty much, well, as of now, they're pretty much laid out as enhancement trees, just like we have right now.
That is correct. They have cores that you spend points to get, and then they have 5 tiers of abilities above those.
Okay, thank you.
So they work just like regular enhancement trees that we have now.
And it starts at level 20.
Yep, starts at level 20.
And currently the cap will still be 30 at the update that we know of.
Yes.
Okay. Now what about things like you have your Epic Past Lives, you have Tome of Fate, things like that.
Okay,
One
so
for one on your AP for the Destinies?
no, any fate points you get, fate points for every 3 fate points, you will earn 1 destiny point in order to, which will actually be spent in the tree. So Tomes of Fate, they are unaffected. They still give you 3 fate points. And Epic Past Lives, the Epic Past Lives themselves are not changing that we know of. The only thing changing with Epic Past Lives, like giving you more fate points, is instead of every 4 giving you a fate point, you will earn 1 fate point for every 3 Epic Past Lives.
Nice.
So you will essentially earn another, another 12 or something like that? Fate points over the course of all 48, something like that? I don't know. I don't remember the math offhand. But you get more. And that's what matters.
Okay. I skipped one thing now. Unlocking trees. What does this mean for new players that are approaching level 20 for the first time?
That means if they have Epic Destiny, if they don't make any changes to, having to purchase Epic Destinies, then, they will need to purchase Epic Destinies. But to unlock a Destiny, you essentially, there's going to be some trainers in a few different rooms, and you go talk to each trainer. There's one trainer for each Epic Destiny. You talk to him, and he'll tell you a little bit about the Destiny, like what it kind of does, and then you have it unlocked, and it's unlocked on that character forever. You never need to talk to that character again. And for each Destiny you do that with, you will earn, it started out as 2, I believe they said they were updating it to 3 fate points. So for every one you open, you get a Destiny point, essentially. So you just have points to spend just for unlocking them. So you don't just start with 0.
If I remember correctly, every tree is now also completely on unlock just from the get-go. You
Yeah,
don't
exactly.
have
There's
to
no
reach like level 3 in one of the periphery destinies to unlock another sphere or anything. You can just start with whatever destinies you want.
So that's
Or-
nice
Which
for
also
new
means you will
players.
never
More.
ever have to run it in a
and the cackle of a
off
nearby
destiny
night
again.
indicate that you have found the malevolent force
What's up, Rex?
responsible for resurrecting the dead.
There is no spheres anymore.
Yeah, totally getting rid of this. Oh, hold on, let me open up the right window. This window.
Yeah, the sphere window where it's got like the
Yeah.
star map and stuff. The
Yeah.
only remnant of that we will have is on a cloak that you will earn if you have at least one character who has maxed all of the epic destinies before the update.
Oh, one character, so it doesn't have to be each character on your account. So one character per account.
That is the expectation.
Okay, that's cool. Here, I'm worried about some of my alt accounts getting up there.
Yeah, they I believe it might have been one of the devs on the Discord was talking about yeah, like it'll flag your account similar to the like the 15th anniversary code
Gotcha.
where you got the cloak for that. So
Stop the plan to raise an undead army and save
I'm gonna recall.
So a question, Kez, you ran Monk. What
I
was
did.
Monk like in the epic destinies that you sampled?
It was fun. I got to do a lot of things, and by a lot of things I mean I pushed like 2 rows of keybinds, and it was good. And then there was a fancy button called Scattering of Petals that works, you know, as a AOE buff for your party and an AOE debuff for everything not your party, you know. And it was pretty nice because monks have enough key regeneration that you can keep that turned on permanently.
Ooh,
So
nice.
that's going to get changed.
So do you feel that they have made Monk more involved to play or less involved to play, or is it about the same?
I definitely think it's a bit more involved when you work, you know, if you're doing the if you're doing anything with builders and spenders, it is definitely more involved.
Your eye is drawn to the gathering on the center of the dais. A curious looking
Which I found fun.
It must be harmless. Sure.
So, does anybody want to state, or I don't know if it's been officially released by the devs exactly why they're doing these changes?
Generally, that
They
information,
released,
like
yeah.
they put some of that in their in the actual threads in those initial posts. A lot of it seems to be geared toward, you know, making epics more accessible to players because there are a lot of players that simply get to 20 and then never go beyond.
They also said along the lines of they want a smoother experience from 20 to 30 so that it feels kind of like heroics do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with the combo update of U50 and then that, hopefully it will be.
I believe
Hopefully.
one of their other stated ideas is so they can actually make changes to epic destinies a bit more modularly. So, like I said, they are going to be adding an epic destiny for every class in the game. So that means Alchemist, Warlock, and Artificer will be in their own epic destiny tree. And by changing it to this format, it'll be easier to implement that without throwing the whole system off.
That's correct.
Alright, so the next thing I see is the epic reincarnation. And the one thing that I like from this is you don't have to worry about karma anymore.
Yep. Karma is not going to be a thing anymore. You will be able to go to level 30. Hey, I want to epic reincarnate. And then when it asks you what past life you want, you just pick from all of them. Just pick one out of the entire list.
So if you want to specialize in playing a specific class, like I like specializing in cleric, that means I won't have to say run a fighter to get my melee, my martial past lives. I can just run in cleric and just take the martial past life feats if I want.
So I didn't look too much at the changes of the destinies themselves to the enhancements, like all the nitty gritty. But does that mean if you're a melee toon and put on a wizardry augment, are you going to be able to heal others in the group with like cure spells and things like that, or do they remove all that?
I mean, if you still have access to cure spells of some sort, you'll still be able to do that.
I guess I'm just asking if they're in any of the trees that you guys seen so far. Any type of healing, like we got cocoon, we got.
Yeah, I mean, cocoon is still there.
Okay.
So I mean,
The main problem
you'd
was
have to-
most of what they showed was like martial and primal trees. So like healing spring is gonna still be there, and it's going to be linked to
wild empathy charges.
wild empathy charges. Yes,
Ooh, nice.
thank you, Kaz.
They're based off of Vigor Mass now. It's pure moderate Vigor instead of the actual regular primal spring.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, I think to answer your question, you will still be able to pick up abilities not linked to your class, but linked to the tree. So if you want to take mass energy resistance, you can still take derp. You can still take cocoon for some melee healing. You can still do all of those things.
Okay.
Yeah, you just need to select one. Select the appropriate tree as one of your three.
Mhm.
So when you level up, as far as XP goes, it's going to be one epic XP is going to equal in one XP in the tree. It's based off of epic XP, right? I guess that's my question.
So epic XP, they're not changing the XP requirements. They're not changing XP scaling on any quests that we know of for the Epic Destiny update. What we do know is that, so for example, the current amount of 8 and 8.25 million XP to get to level from
Yep.
20 to 30, that's still going to be the same. They're simply going to divide those levels into ranks, similarly to heroic levels. So you're going to get you're going to get a rank. You're going to get a rank, get a destiny point, get a rank, get a destiny point, 4 times, and then you get rank 5, and then you level up. And then you do that until you're level 30.
Yes, and yep, tier 5 or level 30 to get, yes. So
Yes.
noted up above here, correct.
Yeah, and the expectation is that, well, when you get to level 40, you're going to be you're going to have an extra 40 destiny points for your level, from leveling, from 31 to 40 at that point.
Plus, at that point, we'd have the additional 3 trees for those extra points, and there's going to be a lot more by the time level 40 comes out. It's not just going to be
Right.
flat out 40.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's going to be some nice scaling. You're going to be able to go fairly deep into those trees with all those extra points.
Nice.
The air gets warmer as you ascend the canyon.
So what's the theoretical max right now starting at level 20 on points, number of points?
Starting at level 20,
It would be 20
20?
less than, or
40 less than the
Yeah,
thing.
so
it's
19.
19 destiny points.
Okay.
At level 20.
So
If you have all past lives, all Tome of Fate, the Feywild Destiny
Everything.
book,
A dark,
everything.
Yeah, so for people that have been playing the game for a while and have everything capped out and past lives and all that stuff, if they want to do a build and get back up, they're still at level 20 going to get some sort of benefit that is going to be greatly helped. I mean, 19 points sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
it's a third of your points, roughly.
Yeah,
Right.
it's not as much as you have right now, but it sounds like it's going to be a decent amount.
From
We never got
playtest,
around
it's
to
enough to
asking
get
Cat,
somewhat.
Rex what his experience was with the
Oh, yeah.
Llama Land preview. What'd you play on there, Rex, and how did it work for you?
I played 4 different things. Alchemist didn't work so well. but that's inherently because they haven't released the alchemist tree yet. So the trees I'm in don't really gear towards my class. They have not released the tank tree yet, so my tank was very, very, very underpowered with update 51, but that's, again, they haven't released the tank trees. I played a variant of Kyrr's 15.5 build that did okay, but they haven't released the tankier tree yet and some of the other things that I typically go in, so it's been kind of touch and go on that. And then I kind of played around with Ranger. Granted, I don't know Ranger all the best, but it was fun to play Ranger at least.
So a lot of your experience was work in progress from them.
Yeah, a lot of the characters I play, they still haven't released any trees or anything for yet.
It kind of stinks, but I mean, hey, they released this pretty early, the preview, so I guess that's all right.
They released it like 5 months early, 6 months early.
Yeah.
5-6 months. Yeah, they released it quite early. Yes.
I'm okay with that. So that means they're working on it. They're, trying to work out quirks and get everybody's feedback, and that sounds like a good move on DDO's end.
A final point I see in this forum post. What does everyone think about the changes they're making to epic feats? I personally think they're trying to give us less boring levels. Because at the current layout, 22, 23, 25 are all tied for the boringest level in the world.
It's funny you say that because I actually just pulled that up on stream, that chart right there that they have. May I go first, Jan?
By all means.
All right. I will say I am pleased. I've heard a lot of people say that there's nothing for those levels. They gotta change it.
We both
And
said
I agree.
that.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that. So that's awesome. I will say personally, I was a little disappointed at 29. You don't get to choose anything as far as feats and stuff like that, but
you get your gear.
you get gear.
Yeah, but that's a little tarnished by the fact that the sexy gear is no longer quite as sexy.
It's still rather strong though. So I mean, and with the new scaling, I mean, yeah, it's not as large of an upgrade. It's still an upgrade. I mean, I still think a lot of people are gonna run with stuff around Borderlands and Sharn tier, heroic Sharn and Borderlands type things. If they're just kind of playing casually and not like super trying to like consistently use best in slot gear every level all the way up to 30.
Yeah, but to my point, level 29, you're still walking to the level up guy and just hitting enter, and you're done. You know what I mean?
You're right. That's true. Yes.
But at least now you will get points to spend in a destiny tree.
That is true. Yeah.
You'll have 4 destiny points from earning that level. You will also, also it's only 1 level instead of 3 where that happens.
Right.
Yeah, I was also about to say, at least you're only doing enter once instead of enter 3 times.
They did pick a good level though, I will say, for if you weren't to choose anything, because the gear it offsets it greatly.
Yeah. They also they made it so the monotony of if you do Slayers, it's not so boring now because you get destiny points all the time.
True. Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot of little things that it's gonna feel a lot smoother leveling up from 20 to 30 in my opinion.
Definitely seems like they're working that in for sure. Looks like they're...
Anyone care to comment on the idea that certain sphere feats are no longer going to be available as epic feats, but are instead going to be linked to specific epic destinies?
I hope they don't do it to deific warding.
No, I mean, it sounds like, if anything, deific warding might tie into US. If anything.
I know, but there's so many tunes. Like, I use deific on my alchemist, and I don't want to go to a tier 4 in US to get deific warding on an elk. So
No,
it's
and
like
I
I'm going to be losing a
understand
bunch.
that, but I just feel like that they're trying to make a Sorry, I know you said you'd rather not listen to the specific trees, but the epic feat.
Well,
I
this is a
feel
good
like
example
what
to illustrate the point.
Yeah.
I feel like that Dive Warning just feels like a tanky-ish kind of feat that I feel like that would
Oh,
be
yeah.
placed into that tree. If at anything, I mean, personally, I miss Dire Charge, and I'm gonna miss it on my boat. I liked Dire
Mhm.
Charge. Drifting Lotus isn't gonna do shit for. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Sorry.
Continue.
Just
I-
bear it in mind.
I just don't think that it's rough when I played the monk that with Drifting Lotus it didn't feel like enough when it came to questing, because that was the only crowd control ability that I was offered able to. And then the rest of the time while Drifting Lotus was down, I'm like trying to avoid mobs and not trying to get hit, because you're in a dangerous climate in mid to high reapers that if you get hit, it's kind of hard to self heal. So
Yeah, yeah. They've
missing.
yeah.
I was just gonna say,
It's
sorry.
go
Every
go
time
for
I
it.
tried talking, we're just overlapping each other. But I was just gonna wrap it up saying that Dire Charge is going to be a big miss for a lot of people, and a lot of people have been complaining about Dire Charge being locked behind Dreadnought, and I'm a firm one of those people that I feel like that Dire Charge should not be locked within Dreadnought, just because they're trying to entice people to run Dreadnought. That is the only thing that they're doing, in my opinion.
So
Okay.
can I?
I
go
want
ahead,
to.
Kat.
I would like to kind of counterpoint that in saying that, based on the feedback that was presented during that Lamannia preview, one of the devs did post, hey, we're going to be making some adjustments, and it seems like, Drifting Lotus's cooldown is most likely going to be reduced, quite possibly straight to Dire Charge's, what is it, 12-second cooldown right now. Drifting Lotus is probably going to have a shorter cooldown, so it'll feel, better to use. And it seems like
So your
Divine
general
Crusader.
point here, Kaz, is that some of the lost feats, they're going to compensate and make adjustments to the trees to enable it to be less of a loss for specific feats and give you feats and trees that can do similar things.
That is correct. Yes.
My only hope though, Kaz, because Drifting Lotus only lasts 2 seconds, whereas Dire Charge lasts 6 seconds, and provides helplessness. Drifting Lotus does not provide helplessness. It only lasts 2 seconds. It's not going to be enough of a CC to compensate for the loss of Dire Charge, no matter what they do to reduce the cooldown. Unless they bring it down to a 2-6 cooldown, so 6-second cooldown Drifting Lotus to 2-second helplessness time. That one I can be like, yeah, all right, I can see where that fits in well, but
You're right, and they very may well.
Okay.
I mean, again, that's something that's in the
Okay.
in the works to get updated.
I'm
so-
sorry. I realized that we're going on to trees. My bad.
Yep. What does the man of the hour have to say about this? You said you had a thought, Planky?
No, yeah, I was just gonna pretty much hit with what Kaz said. I was gonna ask the question because I wasn't sure if they did mention that. So that he covered it. But yeah, as far as, I got on my screen the mass frog. You can find it in a tree now. So they are moving some of that, removing the skill focus, which not many people took the skill focus. Might be more needed now with the abilities being lower on like a First Life tune or something if you're a trapper. But they're gone as of now. So legendary feats, what's the major changes on those?
Well, the legendary
Sign on fire.
feats, I believe, are still going to be the same. It's the sphere feats, the
Now,
ones where...
there are going to be some changes to the Scion feats, notably the ones that give like specific like element bonuses. Or they're very specifically linked to an element thematically. They will be adjusted to increase your spell critical damage with the appropriate elements.
So yeah, the Scion of Fire is no longer, if I'm reading it correctly, 25% spell critical damage, but it will be 20% for fire.
That is correct. And then other, the other elements, like the one for ice or negative, will give the appropriate
20% for that.
the
Yep.
appropriate 20% for that element.
Which is good because there's a lot of scions where I'm just like, man, I kind of wanted that, and I would give up 5% for it.
I'll be honest, I've only ever taken 3 scions because the only 3 actually felt like it was worth it. Arborea, Celestia, and I think I took Ethereal Plane at one point. And I think I regretted that.
I think I've used all 10, or at least 10 of them. Just because of playing different classes and different ways of playing classes. But yeah, for sure. I would say there's a main 3 or 4 that get used pretty frequently.
Yeah.
Yeah, not all Scion feats right now are born equal.
Because healer or tank, you're taking Celestia. If you're DPS, you're either taking Arborea or the other one. I don't remember the name of it. Kyrr.
Ethereal?
Ethereal Plane.
Astral
you.
Plane? Astral Plane for Monk.
There you go.
That's what I do, at least.
But and then casters, you're taking either fire or air.
Yep.
Elk might go earth, but you'd want to be an acid elk for that, and yeah, it'd be more of a DC caster.
Should we move on to like the design with the caster levels, spell schools, and DCs?
Yeah, that sounds good.
That betray
Certainly.
the creature's true nature.
So as far as caster levels, you get 1 caster level every 2 epic levels now. So that's going to be during the level up process by the looks of it.
If you are in
Yes.
a caster tree.
No, that's not going to be if you're in a caster tree. That's just going to be
My
as part of
apologies
the
for that.
as part of like the epic power feat that you earn every level or whatever it is. That's like, here's 3 melee power and like 2 universal spell power or whatever it is.
Yep.
Every 2 times you acquire that, you will earn 1 caster level to all of your caster classes. That's
which is nice.
Which is nice because it doesn't tie it directly to, oh, you're a caster, you have to use a caster tree for your class to get all your caster levels anymore. Now you can play whatever destiny you want.
Though I do notice that's somewhat mitigated by the fact you don't automatically get a universal skill point for going up a level either.
I mean, that's still. You mean the +1 to the +1 bonus to all skills
Yeah.
for epic? That's still there.
Really? I thought they were taking that away.
No, they're taking away the epic skill focus feats that are like, you have 20 ranks in this skill.
Oh,
you can take the
that's-
feat for +5 more.
Yep.
Those are going away. The +1 for every epic level is staying. That is
Need
not
to take
going
away
away.
skill focused feats in general, but yeah, that's just me.
Now that they're lowering skills, that might not be the best idea to take skills away.
That was kind of my thought, especially for someone that doesn't have 50 plus pass life.
Or, even a tank that's trying to do R1 Project Nemesis,
True.
and they need 172 DC to hit the frickin' mob.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's the kind of thing that's, they're going to get feedback on. They're going to change it.
Oh, they got feedback.
Rex is like, they heard me.
And the devs are still sitting in the corner crying after all that feedback.
Well, I mean, I personally have seen Linabelle in the Discord channel talking about things like, yeah, we're going to make changes to things that need changes like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Linabelle was saying that a lot of what was complained about will be fixed, and some of the things that were even liked are going to be diminished. So we shall see ultimately when the next preview comes out.
Yeah, that'll be in probably a couple months or so.
Okay, I'm gonna put out the elephant in the room. About this Epic Destinies no longer giving any kind of spell critical. Anyone want to start with this?
Are you talking damage?
Well, your spell critical chance.
and damage.
Oh, chance?
I mean,
mean,
the only thing that was... Go ahead.
I was just gonna say again that keeps you from being locked into certain destinies for your optimal build. So it does make things more accessible based on whatever you want to do.
A necromancer has made his home somewhere.
I was gonna add into the addition to that a lot of fire sorcerers or healers would always lock into Empyrean magic, which is the thing that gave the spell
use it as
critical
we
chance.
speak.
Yes.
It's a very nice feat or a very nice twist or an enhancement in the Divine Crusader that was like an automatic go-to. It was that, and then it was meld for a lot of the fire sorcerers or healers, because it was like the critical chance was a very large part at play of power, and so you also got power on top of that. I believe it was what 20. It was 2 spell power, 1 critical chance per stack,
Something like
Correct.
that, yeah.
and so that the ultimate power it comes from like a tier 1 twist for 30 fire spell power. It was a very accessible twist that was like a must-have that felt, it felt reasonable that it needed to be brought down because no other classes could use that. There was no other. It was fire and positive. There was no like fire always had the lead against electric, or it always had the lead against
Yep.
sonic or acid. All these other things, and it shouldn't have been that way to begin with. But unfortunately, that's how it started. So it was just taking that away it was the most notable one to take away. I believe that's actually the only critical chance that was in that specific one that you could take, and so taking this one away was a very, in my opinion, a very smart idea.
Okay, hey guys, before you kill the boss, let me kill the pumpkin for the other star.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, there you go.
Sorry for the side note there, guys. Yeah, I agree with you, Kyrr. As far as the health of the game, definitely will help to even things out in the long run and make people want to play some of those other casting types and whatever else rather than their standard fire sork every life.
Yeah.
Brings more diversity.
Ultimately, we'll also see, because they haven't released Draconic, so
True.
we don't know if they were removed or added more to that tree, because that tree is the nuking tree. It has 30 crit damage in it for every type. So
Yeah.
when we see that tree, we'll see
Well, the
how
basic
that goes.
elements, not it doesn't work for radiance negative or things like that, but yeah, all
Right,
your
but
basic elements
positive,
works for it.
negative, and all of those.
But
But
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see with that one, because right now it seems like they're kind of nuking nukes, spellcasting nukes. That is.
Instead of throwing fireballs, you're throwing Nerf footballs.
Well, overall, spellcasters are getting a bigger hit than everyone else, and they have been getting multiple hits here recently. To the point of, I was doing the math on it, and my alchemist is only going to be doing 12% of what it used to be doing. So, playing it in Update 50, it was almost unplayable for me. Playing it in Update 51, granted, it didn't have the Update 50 changes implemented in Update 51 preview, but even Update 51, it was very difficult to play, but I didn't have my main Destiny tree, so that was part of it.
Right.
So we will see, but I foresee you won't even see nukers anymore. It'll be all insta-killers. You might see once in a blue moon, you'll see a nuker.
Okay, moving on to the next point. The next point here is melee and ranged power. Any thoughts on this? That it gives you every tree also gives you melee and ranged power. I know a lot of like caster classes that's not really going to be useful for them, but
Well, I mean the melee the physical focused destinies will grant melee and ranged power with the exclusion. They'll grant both melee and ranged, with the exclusion of Fury of the Wild and Sharadi Champion, which will be melee and ranged respectively.
You will call on me again.
But the way they're doing it, putting those powers into the core abilities of the Destinies will again allow for, using different builds and not locking you into a single or best build sort of best tree sort of option.
Right.
Just to get all your
there
melee
was,
power.
or range power, because there was the
Right.
argument for a long time that between Fury and Sharadi for a ranger, but a lot of veteran players said you have to go Sharadi just because you can't lose that 60 range power.
Right.
So
Okay, this segues into something I really wanted to ask Rex about, because he and I actually discussed these things when we first learned about them, and he said something I found really interesting that I didn't want to reiterate around because I didn't want to put words in his mouth. You said that if we make every build equal or balanced to the others, you said that might make the player base toxic. Do you mind elaborating on what you meant by that?
So before I played DDO, I played WoW, and on WoW they have done a lot of this, valuation where every class is viable and every class can do similar things and every class is made for what it's made for. That sort of thing. What DDO is working towards. And something I ran into on WoW was, and I've ran into this on Guild Wars 2 and a few other games as well, is when you start getting into that elite play style where you're pushing content and now everyone has the same gear, everyone can get the same gear pretty easily, and everyone's character ability is now easy and comparable, you run into the issue of now it's who's playing better, and you run into toxicity between players of, for instance, I used to play a shaman DPS healer split in WoW. And I'd be first in healing, but I'd only be second in DPS, and someone said, well, my tune's not good enough, and I got kicked out of my guild because of that, because I wasn't top in DPS, but they never looked at the healing portion of it. So there's issues behind that where I think in WoW we're going to run into a lot of veteran players having toxicity over, well, these new players, they have the same gear as me, they should be better. Because common gear is going to be just one little tiny step below named gear and artifacts. So now it comes down to who plays better. And that is going, in my opinion, going to spur up a lot of toxicity between old veteran players that are, for lack of better term, either elitist or like to push hard content and don't quite like running with newbies. And you're going to struggle with those newbies trying to get into these content pushes.
I foresee that. I definitely get your point on that. I never thought of it that way until now. But my thought on what you just had to say with WoW is, for one, this isn't WoW. Thank God. No.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people go into WoW with that mindset, or maybe not go into it, but once they start playing around all those people with that mindset, I think that is already there in the game. You know what I mean? Here, our player based, a lot of players like to help each other out, I feel. So I don't know, I can foresee what you're saying, but I kind of have a hard time believing, part of me, because I don't want to believe that, but
I'll also say I've seen the opposite, because when I was a newer player, I wasn't allowed into a lot of the elite guilds. I was told I wasn't good enough.
Fair enough.
So I do see both ends of it. Like, this guild, Hold, extremely accepting, loves new players, loves helping people out, but there's other guilds that I will not name because I don't want them attacking people.
Sure.
that aren't quite so accepting and that aren't quite so nice to people on Arganessen, and I've seen it on other servers too.
Yeah, which you will get that anywhere, but okay, yeah,
For sure.
that's a valid point.
I think you just see it more on WoW because WoW has 5 to 10 times
More.
the player base
Yeah.
that DDO does.
So you think that with this equalizing of builds that the game is actually going to become more skill focused?
For sure. And it's also going to become luck. I mean, it's going to become skill, but a lot of it's just going to become luck. Who's luckier? You know? Who can go in there and not get hit by the Doom Reaper twice, or who can go in there and get hit by the Doom Reaper twice? You know,
Well,
that sort
to
of
be
thing.
fair, with champions and Reapers, there's always an element of RNG in it as it is.
Right, but this
How
just
many
makes
Reapers
it more
will
so.
you get per this run?
See,
Will you get 4 Doom Reapers as you step into a level 1 quest?
Yeah, sometimes. My thought on as far as what you're saying, Rex, is you have, I don't know how I want to say this, you have a lot of people in the game now that are, this is the best way to build a DPS tune. This is the best way to build a healer. This is the best way to build a tank. Now, I think they're, with all the changes, it seems like to me that they're gearing more towards you play the way you want to play. If you feel like your damage isn't enough, then change your Epic Destinies around, change your enhancements around, and it seems like just the options opened up so much more for people to be exactly what they want, that there's going to be just no more, here you have to do this.
Right.
I'd like to add in that DDO's biggest strength over other MMOs is actually the amount of customization and specialization you can do with your character. I don't know of any other MMO that has so many different race, class, and build combinations that you can, DDO. So by making the play what you want, that actually plays to DDO's strength of making whatever kind of character you want to make.
That's kind of where I was trying to get with Jan, and thank you for getting me there.
Ultimately, yeah, I see that a lot. There's still going to be those veteran players that have tested every variation they can think of, and they say this. They're going to say this is best in slot, or in their opinion, this is best in slot. And you're always going to have that, but this does open up the realm to have more versatility in builds, so that people can't just say, well, this is best in slot or this is best in slot. Because right now I can say my Paladin build is probably one of the best builds, just because of who I've played with, and I've compared
Not gonna lie to you,
and everything
folks,
else.
I've seen it in action. He's telling the truth.
Now, after this update, there's going to be so many different combinations that, you know, if I'm being truthful, I've probably spent 30 hours theory crafting my Paladin easily. After this update, I don't think I'd have enough time in the world to sit there and theory craft every combination and every way of doing something between all of the destinies and everything else that's going to be happening.
Do you feel that's a good thing or a bad thing, Rex?
For min-maxers, it's going to be a struggle, because for people like me or Ross or even Kyrr, we enjoy the build aspect of min-maxing our tunes. At least I hope I'm not speaking ill on your behalf, Kyrr. I think you enjoy that.
What? Sorry, you're saying I'll enjoy min-maxing, or
well, theory crafting.
Theory crafting is going to be a struggle after this update. Yeah. It's definitely going to be a bigger. I wouldn't say it's not an issue, but it's going to be a bigger gap in that whole trying to figure out what's going to be the best for you because of how many options there are.
Yeah.
But it's going to be difficult for the people who love doing that.
My counter thought to that is, there's going to be like an age of discovery as people sit there and work out what the best builds are, what the new combinations are, and that's probably going to be fun for you guys. finding out, oh wow, this now works. Oh yeah, I can actually do this now and do it with this kind of combination. And this means that you're going to have this kind of discovery going on for a long time with all the different combinations you can make now.
I mean, even with all of the new combinations, the thing I foresee happening is everyone's gonna play their play style and go for the things in their tree and just communicate, and you're gonna learn a lot in a short period of time.
Yes.
Because at least the community I'm in, I know me, Kyrr, Joey, Ross, Benny, all of these people that I play with, we're all going to be talking to each other and saying, well, this works now, so we can use this, or this works now, and we should use this, and stuff like that, where we can just kind of work with each other to figure out what's best. With my tank build, there's going to be a lot of time that I'm going to have to sit there and discover, because there's only 5 or 10 uber pushing tanks that are endgame that I can compare with, and at least on Argo.
I
So
mean,
it's
player or
difficult.
builds?
Players. There's
Okay.
not very many people that play tank, at least not in Argo.
Tank, if anyone's wondering, is actually kind of niche to upper difficulty. If you get until you get into like about Reaper 6, you don't really need a tank for most content. You can just blitz through it if you have good DPS.
And
So
that's for quests.
tank is very much a specialist for the people who push the content.
Yeah, and that's exclusive to quests. If you're talking raids, R6 raids, you need a tank. R1 raids, you need a tank.
True. Mind if we move on to the
Certainly.
next subject?
Nope.
Thank you.
I don't.
Usage per rest abilities. So Smite Evil, Bard Songs, Turn Undead, Rage. What are they doing to those?
Okay, what they're doing with those is effectively the Destiny abilities we have now, such as Healing Spring, which use its own, Healing Spring charges. Those types of abilities. They are changing those. They're going to be tweaking those so that they tie, more into heroic class resources. So, for example, Healing Spring will use Wild Empathy charges instead of its own Healing Spring charges. So, things that grant you healing or Wild Empathy charges will grant you more usages of Healing Spring. That sort of thing.
Which is nice. If they change Healing Spring a little bit.
Well, regardless of what Healing Spring does, having it use an existing resource that a player would already have, it can be nice, because then they don't have to keep track of, and now I only have like 2 of this, but I have like 7 of these from my heroic levels, and I don't use them for anything. Now you have a use for them.
That's what I wanted to ask Ross: is how often do you use Wild Empathy charges on a Ranger?
What's Wild Empathy?
In heroics, you can use them for lesser vigor in heroics, which is actually kind of nice.
This is true.
It doesn't do a whole lot on high reapers, but if you're doing like R1 Zergs, it's nice just to cast that mass lesser vigor on the party, and it keeps them healed.
Yeah.
But yeah, for epics and R10, I've never seen Wild Empathy used.
Alright, well that sounds, it's nice. They're trying to bring in stuff now that people don't use much and make it so it's easier to use.
There's more incentive to use it.
There you go. Feat tie-ins also. That kind of leads to the feat tie-ins. More incentive.
Yeah, the feat tie-ins. There's going to be some.
This, I feel, has been long overdue.
Yes.
Yeah, there's going to be some incentives to pick epic feats that, or Destiny feats that people don't tend to use right now, such as Embodiment of Law or Harbinger of Chaos. They previewed a couple of abilities that, in the Destiny trees that would directly tie into those and make them stronger. In the case of the one for Embodiment of Law, it was quite strong, and but the intent behind it of, hey, you want to use this cool feat? You know, it's kind of, you know, it's okay, but it could be better. Well, now you can make it a little better.
So you're talking, when you say make better, you're talking in the new Destiny revamp. They
Yeah,
are
like,
gonna tie in things for like 1 more damage or something per AP spent or something.
For example, they previewed in Grandmaster of Flowers, one of the upper end abilities in Grandmaster of Flowers was if you have wind through the trees, or not wind through the trees. What is it? It's the one. It's the one that's a 5% chance to just ignore any physical damage. I don't remember what the exact name of it is.
Yep. Elusive target.
The elusive target, yes. If you have elusive target, its chance to activate is doubled. Also, have some dodge chance or whatever it was. But it's like a hey, you know, here's an extra chance to just not take damage if you have this other feat that you probably didn't use before.
Okay, nice. What about ability score bonuses?
Personally, I'm glad they're kind of moving away from ability score bonuses in the Destiny trees, because I personally never really took them unless I absolutely had the rest of the stuff was that's never going to affect what I'm doing.
I don't know. It kind of feels like a double whammy here, Kaz, where not only are they nerfing your stat bonuses from your level 29, 30 gear, they're also taking away to get stat points from your Epic Destiny trees. So it looks like they're really pushing for lower stat numbers.
So yeah, they want lower stats so that they can build further without having to deal with the the increase of power creep.
And the increase of max level, I would believe. I would like to
Yeah. Well, that's what I meant by expand. They're
Gotcha.
planning on going to level 40 within the next 10 years, so they need room to expand, because right now our level 30 stats are probably what they're planning on being our level 40 stats.
Yeah, we don't want to be
kind of
WoW.
going in a WoW direction for a while, haven't we?
Yeah.
And I think the specific number, I think it was Linabelle called it out, like the gear we have now is effectively like if you had gear that was cannon crafted at level 54, these would be the stats you have now at level 29 gear.
Right.
Which is absolutely wild to think about.
And Linabelle hinted that our level 40 raid gear is going to, and artifacts are going to be a little bit less than what our level 29 gear was now.
Okay, fair enough. Alright, that sounds good though.
Gives them 10 levels to expand into and gear to work back towards.
Right.
They said they're going to bring us to 40, they're going to bring us to 40. They just got to make quite a few changes along the way.
Yeah.
And I'm okay as long as we're still having fun playing the game.
Mm-hmm.
What about DC checks? What are they doing there?
Crickets.
Well, in this,
Nobody has anything good to say.
in regard to the destinies themselves and what is available, again, it is, they're making things, more accessible, in that you're not going to have like a single tree that's like, you have to use this tree to get all your DCs.
AKA Manchester?
Yeah, for example, Magister.
Well, Magister's going away.
But I'm saying that's best in slot right now for DCs.
Right.
It's not going away, it's having its name changed to Magus of the Eclipse.
Well, it's going to be more focused specifically on like negative, cold, and necromancy, whereas Magister right now is kind of a
just necromancy DC.
It's going from Archmage to Pale Master, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. That's about the extent of it.
Though I do notice that you can't really stack your DCs from trees. So if you max out, say, your evocation and DCs from one tree, you cannot get further evocation DCs from another tree. You've got to move into a different spell school if you want to get further DCs.
That's correct. They're making it so you can choose, a bunch of different DCs by going through, by going up in multiple trees, or if you go up in a single tree, you get a bonus. You get like a +3 bonus to everything, to every school, and then another +3 bonus to a specific school. From a single tree, using like what tier 3 and tier 5 abilities. I think were the currently planned, or the previewed, values.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sounds like they're definitely dropping those numbers down for sure.
Right, and they've said that enemy DCs will, their saves will also be going down, in the same sort of time frame. So it's not going to be that much of an issue.
Good.
We hope.
Yeah, I was right about to say, hopefully.
Right, and then again, I mean that's what previews are for, is to test things, more than the dev team can, because because of how many players there are, it's it just makes more sense for them to be able to preview things and test things that the devs simply may not have thought of. I know
sure.
they they put in a lot of work and they do a lot of things and testing internally, but sometimes just by the scale of how many options there are, there's most likely something that wasn't not accounted for.
Any further thoughts on that, Kyrr?
No.
So we already
I
touched...
know you said there's going to be a lot more insta-kill casters, Rex. Do you think this is going to affect insta-kill casters?
It's gonna help them.
Yeah.
Because right now you're looking at insta-kill casters being able to multi-spec into different DCs and get multiple insta-kills under different DCs. Therefore,
You're
allowing
talking
them
like
to have
Finger
more.
and Froggy.
Yes. Therefore, allowing them to have more insta-kills.
Well, and with the changes from U50, I think we did the numbers last week. What was it? We're gonna be ahead roughly. Was it like 9 DCs or something, based on what they
like
lose, the enemies lose, and we lose?
Yep.
And if anything, I mean, it even allows nukers to have something more, as like, oh hey, I can try a DC thing, even if I'm not super spec'd for it.
Yeah.
Nuking for the weenies, DCs for the toughies.
I foresee nukers just not existing anymore because your spell powers and spell crit is just going to be too low.
For the record, I'm still gonna try to nuke.
Well, you can, but a barbarian is going to be able to kill faster than you, is what I'm more so getting at.
I'm gonna try it, and if it's absolutely horrible, I won't try
Well,
it again.
that was my idea. I'm going to try Bombardier, and if it doesn't work well, then I'm going to Apothecary.
Yep. Yep.
But, I mean, ultimately, is it a good thing that nukers are getting nerfed? Yes, but is it... Have they gone a little overboard with nuking, with nerfing nukes lately? Yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's been so many complaints for so many years, and you'll never get everybody to be happy. You're still gonna get those complaints regardless.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the complaining base before was the fact of melee and ranged couldn't get any kills.
And it's a valid complaint.
Yeah, it is. And after the first nerf, it made it a little bit more fair because they could kill steal. After the second nerf, it made it a lot more fair to the point where a lot of barbarians were beating my nuker. Rangers obviously are beating barbs after their latest update, so it's like whatever. But after this next update, I foresee nukers being at the bottom of the kill list.
Yeah, I can foresee
Which is
that.
a little feels bad for me because I just discovered the joy of the favorite soul nuker.
Right.
Hey, how's it going, Reaper?
Oh well, back to sit in the corner, shut up and heal.
Well, shall we press on to the last subject at large?
Indubitably.
Which leads to the builder's charges and all that good stuff. Who cares to explain that?
Someone who is not me.
Awesome, glad to hear
Go
you.
ahead, Kyrr.
so,
Or Kaz, sorry.
No.
all right, I will attempt to go on this. All right,
Break
so
it down.
So what they planned was, essentially, there is a sort of charge system that you use certain abilities, and you get this sort of quasi
Hey, thanks
buff,
for following.
and then you spend that buff to do something a little bit cooler, a little bit better. For example, like Primal Scream. You know, you use Primal Scream, you get a buff to your physical stats, and then if you use Primal Scream, but you have more, if you have a bunch of Primal charges, it lasts longer. It increases your stats more. That sort of thing. That's what they were going with the builder's charge spender system. And there was a lot of, I know there was a lot of feedback about that stuff. A lot of people not too happy about it.
And threatened the pungent scent
And
that fills your nostrils.
they are making changes to that, to that system. But as it stands as it stood in the preview, instead of the charges only being spent on things, there were buffs there were abilities you could take in the Destiny trees that would give you a buff for having them. For example, in I think it was in Legendary Dreadnought or it was in Grandmaster, you would get plus to your tactical DCs for however many charges you had.
Okay.
Which it's like, oh, okay, so I can build some charges, and then I have a buff to my tactical DCs, so I can do some crowd control, which would be nice. But then you spend them on a big one like Drifting Lotus or something like, or Dire Charge or something like that. Whatever whatever your finisher was, you would be able to then just spend the charges later.
Going Mortal Kombat style, pretty much.
Oh, your headset's up.
Journey to the cavern floor promises to be much
Hopefully
easier
more than
when
once a
sent back to
combat.
the surface.
Right. And in addition to simply using builders, they did have certain passive type buffs. That when you would use a certain type of skill or you did a certain thing, you could generate charges without having to use a builder. So those were kind of nice. So if you built right, you could potentially, not even have to use a builder, and you could just build charges, and you didn't even have to use a spender. You could just build these buffs for having the charges, and you'd have all these different buffs, like plus tactical DCs or plus to hit and damage or something. Have something for these charges, even if you didn't spend them.
So if I'm following you correctly, some of the enhancements are tied to being a builder, some are enhancers, some are
Yes.
spenders, and if you use the appropriate type, you get a stack according to the school.
Yep.
And the builder has the additional damage, enhancer gives you the hit points and spell power, and the spender gives you crit multiplier per charge. And the idea behind it is try to keep them up so you can be more powerful.
Inside the temple has ended.
Yeah, the idea is you could, keep up your, you can generate these charges, you can hold them for the passive buffs that you have, that you took the enhancements for, or you can spend them for things, to make something a little bit stronger. And there was, that was their vision, was, people would be able to play that differently depending on their play style.
Yep. Sounds cool, but it sounds like it's busy. So, like, if you're a type of person that likes to just go and hack and slash and not use too many abilities and clickies, things like that.
You can still do so, and you'll still be powerful.
Right.
It's just you're not gonna be the min-maxed, the best of your build.
True.
It's just
It's
like
kind of
some
like
barbarians.
the stances in
You
Alchemist,
have quite
where
the passion.
you
that.
can just stay in a stance and have that give you passive bonuses, or you could sit
cards.
there and cycle through your different stances for the different massive bonuses you get for like 10 seconds at a time.
Or
So-
spiking.
So
Yeah,
let
spiking,
me
that was the term I was thinking of.
ask a general question. So, y'all know me, and I got 20 hot bars out, a little too much, right? I got all my gear, all my clickies, everything. So what does that mean for a person like me if I want to try to use these builder spenders? It's going to take up a lot more hotbar room, no?
Yes and no. I mean,
Depends
it's gonna
on where
take
I
up
go.
probably one more hotbar, but that just means getting rid of some of your gear swaps,
Okay.
or like it'd be like, for me, it'd be putting all of my spell point things, like my Vile Blasphemies, my Bauble, putting all of that just in my inventory to the point where I have to open up my
Open your first
inventory and
tab
swap
and-
it out.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because as far as getting rid of gear and stuff, for me, I'm going to have a harder time to get rid of the gear on the hotbars because I'm going to want to use it more because now my abilities and my skills aren't going to be as high for my diplomacy checks, my, all my social
Right.
skills, search, whatever.
But
Well,
for
on the-
those, I think what they're trying, or maybe not what they're trying to do, but what's going to happen is it's just going to go in your inventory, and you'll have to keep track of it in your inventory.
Oof, sounds
I
awful.
want to add on the
More
plus
hot
side,
bars.
Planky, builds that or classes like melee. You said melee is just not involved enough. There's not enough to do, or just stand there and hit things. This is gonna make melee builds a lot more
More
involved.
interesting.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't say melee. Well,
High jump.
I don't know
Interesting.
about that one.
Well, I didn't say melee isn't involved. I said he feels they're not involved.
Well, like,
Oh, okay.
for instance, my fighter tank that I did a while ago, right?
Well, tank, it depends on how you play, but yeah, for sure, most tanks aren't involved.
Yeah, especially the fighter tank. There wasn't any clickies. I couldn't heal anybody. I mean, it was god awful. I just pretty much sat there blocked, and then you taught me about the tumbling.
Yeah.
So that was pretty bad. That made me not want to play melee ever again. But as you all know, next life I'm gonna. So,
Melee
yeah.
Barbarian is,
I like
I would say,
Barbarian.
very clicky intensive.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the Barbarian and the Monk, and I think it's because it's clicky intensive, and I just got my fingers, they gotta be moving.
Right.
So, yeah,
With-
it could be good, Jan, for sure.
With fighter, fighter, if you're going pure fighter and not tank, it has a lot of clickies. But if you go tank, then no.
Yeah, true. Alright. Well, I think that's all I wanted to touch on. Does anybody have any closing thoughts or any comments?
Still sitting on the wait and see fence.
True. No one else?
Nope.
Going once,
No.
twice. We're closed. All right, everybody. Hey, thanks, Jan, for taking charge here a little bit and introduction and all that good stuff, and everybody for
And
your
I want
thoughts.
to thank our guests for showing up and bringing their different views on things.
Thanks
Because
for
I know
having me.
we were kind of like an echo chamber. Oh, this might be fun. This will be fun. This will be fun.
Well, one quick closing question before we go, and Rex, I know since you taught me about it, I'm going to have you hit on it if you don't mind. Infinite wants to know, what does tumbling do?
So, it's a mechanic of the game where you can tumble back and forth and side to side, obviously. And most mobs,
It's a skill
they
here.
have different view ranges for their attack and defense, whether they have to move forward or back, or whether they're a stationary mob. You can have different advantages of being able to tumble in and out of those areas as a tank. You also have the advantage of, there's a tier 1 Magister twist, at least right now, that you can tumble through enemies and make it so that as a tank you don't get stuck in a group of enemies, you can tumble out of it. So tumble can give you a lot of advantages as a tank, especially of being able to either A, avoid enemies' attacks, B, tumble through enemies so that you can get on the other side and not have it aimed towards your party, or C, be able to bounce in and out of a enemy's target range so that it swaps between melee and range depending on whatever you can take better. Prime example would be like Korkaza in Killing Time. She has her lightning range and then her melee range. That's why a lot of people, even casters, are right up against Korkaza when you're doing the raid. But with a tank, you can bounce in and out of that to get rid of charges or to get more charges depending on what your MRR is.
Yeah, Infinite says thank you for that. Alright, everybody, I do have to get going. Appreciate it. Please leave your feedback, and thanks for following Reaper. And again, Zask, thanks for sitting around and hanging out with us. Rex, thanks for all your insight. Kyrr,
Thank you, guys.
as well. Kaz and Jan.
I have much to say.
It's all good.
Rumors of strange things
All right,
stirring
everybody.
within the
We'll see
now
you later.
abandoned Haywire Foundry.